You're listening to the Habit Hacked Podcast, where you learn to mindfully leverage your habits to create the life you actually want. Get ready to elevate your vision, take real action, and reap the rewards. And now your hosts, Chad Fowers and Alex Engar.
All right, welcome to the Habit Hacked Podcast, episode 7. We are here with our special guest, Brendan Hufford. And Brendan is a dad, a husband, a podcaster. He's started and sold 2 businesses online. He's a teacher, and he's a real guy, which is what I love most about him. If you read his bio, he is so transparent and so genuine. I'm excited to talk to him, excited to learn from him.
Yeah, I mean, we have been able to meet him, and just from his transparency that he's got, and just from his originality, it's so fun to meet people that like Brandon, that are making a difference, that are just starting with what they've got and just killing it in the world that they're in. So we're excited to have you on, Brendan, and thanks for joining us.
Definitely, guys. I'm stoked. Let's do it.
So that's one of the things I want to start off with. You have this amazing energy. Where do you pull that from?
So I think it's a choice, right? Like, I can just choose to feel this way. I mean, I don't always want to feel this way, but like, I just kind of choose to. Like, you guys are catching me right now. I put my kids to bed. I went to the gym at 9:00 p.m. and then worked out and decided screw it. We were just talking earlier about like how I've been sick for a week, and I'm like fired up. I haven't been able to work out or anything, and health and fitness is super important to me. So I went to the gym, hit like a rep PR for deadlifts.
Nice,
and
congrats.
Did some sprints on like an assault bike, which is terrible. I want to like throw up the whole time. And then like I'm here, and I'm like, I'm not even kidding you right now. This is me at like a solid 50%. Because I don't want to wake up everybody in the house. Like,
that's awesome.
It's normally a lot faster and a lot louder. It used to be a total nightmare for my wife because I'd wake up at like 3 a.m. to work in the morning and get stuff done. And then she'd get up with the kids around 6. But I've already been up for 3 hours. So she would like walk out of the bedroom and I would hit her going like 1,000,000 miles an hour. We had to have a lot of like chill out for a minute, Brendan. Let me wake up
just
conversations.
That's hilarious.
Yeah. That is so fun. That really is something that we can all draw from, is that energy that you've got. And what would you say is the thing that really lights your fire? What's the thing that keeps you going, and what's your passion?
Yeah, so I think that what really ends up keeping me going day to day, you hear from a lot of people is like family and kids. Yeah. I think my relationship with God is super important. Is the most important thing. But, you know, the thing I'm passionate about, and this sounds so weird, is really just the work. I think it's it's the great equalizer, right? Like, I always tell people that like people might be more talented, they might be born with more money and more advantage, whatever. But like, you can always choose to outwork them. It might take you longer to get where they are, to get whatever you want out of life. But like, you can always put in the work. I'm absolutely obsessed and in love with like the work of things, of doing good work, of doing work that I'm proud of. I was just telling my wife like the other day, she and I were talking, I'm like, I think we should sell our house and move to the woods and just like make things with our hands. Like, I just like want to like build something. Like, I don't know. You know, I'll probably undertake some huge crazy project this summer and build my kids like a giant fortress in the backyard. But, you know, I think so. Here, I'll tell you a quick story. I think the number one way to lose something you're passionate about is by building a business around it. So I built a business in around 2011. I built a business around Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, something I was super passionate about, loved it. And the problem is that it changes your relationship with people in that area. If people love CrossFit and then they try to make a business around CrossFit, it really changes the taste of that for you. Yeah. And I really do believe in protecting things that you're passionate about, not trying to make a business out of them. I know there's a lot of advice of like chasing your passion and building a business out of things you like and things like that. I think it can be a good starting point. But, you know, the business I run now, I have a digital marketing agency for photographers, and where we do all of their marketing for them so they can kind of focus on what is, you know, important, taking pictures, right? Yeah. And I'm not in love with that. I'm not like, I don't wake up, I'm in love with marketing. I'm in love with the work of that. But like, I didn't like, as a little kid, I didn't tell my mom like, man, I really want to sit at the computer and answer a bunch of emails all day. Like this is fill out a bunch of Google sheets. Like, I'm not passionate about that, but I am passionate about the work and then the kind of life that provides, you know?
Yeah. I think that that's really important for our listeners, is that work aspect. I mean, we're kind of living that same story as we speak. I mean, this is our 7th episode of this podcast, and we don't have any prior experience in public speaking or speaking on the radio. We don't have all this technology and everything like that. And that's kind of what we really want to hit home, and that you've hit home really well, is that desire to just start and push forward and learn as you go, and really just do what you can, because that's really where all the experience comes from. That's where living life comes from. One of the main things that I was talking to Alex here about is our first couple episodes, even still, like we're mumbling, we're like trying to fumble over our words. And part of me at first, when I was re-listening to the episodes at the first, I was like, man, we should take those off and re-record them.
They're the worst, aren't they?
Yeah, you feel
They're
terrible.
the worst. But then I changed my paradigm a little bit, and I was like, that's the whole story. That's the whole point, is that this is real life. Like this is work. This is what you do. And as you learn, you gain experience, and you can share that experience with other people through podcasting, through blogs, and other things like that, kind of like you've done. And so I love that. I think that's so cool.
I think it's super dangerous to compare your chapter 1 with like somebody else's chapter 20.
Yeah, totally.
It's so true.
Like, go back and listen. Who are people like John Lee Dumas has done on Entrepreneur on Fire, has probably done like 2,000 podcasts or something on Godly,
every
right? Listen to his like first 3 podcasts. They're horrible. You can't even get through them. And his guests are really good.
Yeah.
And he's so bad. Listen to early like Tim Ferriss show podcasts. He's really bad compared to what he is now. Like Tim Ferriss I love because he's really studied the craft of interviewing. He's really good at it now. But his first few were like atrocious. And I think really like looking at that progress and somebody who's really put their all into it, I think would give you guys a lot of perspective too.
That's so funny. We were just talking about that literally maybe a half hour ago, talking about comparing ourselves. You listen to people who have mastered something and feel like, well, crap, I suck at this. And so you think, well, better not start, because everyone's already that far ahead. I'm never going to get there. And you just deceive yourself when you look at the masters and expect to be there right when you start something. It's just not attainable. It's not realistic. And I think going back and listening to those first few episodes, or going back and looking at early websites of people who, are now just really, really refined and perfect in their delivery, it's so inspiring to see that. And you don't often get that opportunity, because by the time they're out in the public eye, they've refined all those skills already. They've already pushed through the initial resistance of not being polished, and they've made it. So I think that's great advice.
Absolutely.
So that's really the key takeaway that we want to have for the listeners. Just start somewhere. To kind of go along with that, I just recently wrote my first blog post. I mean, it's something that I never even thought about doing. And so one day after we started this podcast, I was like, I want to write a blog post. I didn't even know that I didn't know how to write. I didn't even know that I try to put sentences together and it just comes out so weird, but I did it. And one thing that I really that I wrote on the blog post was the fact that we kind of we want to experience life like an amusement park ride, where we just wait in line and then we hand the ticket to the person, or we show them our stamp that's letting everyone in, and then we get to ride the ride and experience the success and experience the laughter and the joy and the excitement of the whole process. But really, life isn't like that. Like the real satisfaction and fulfillment comes through working through those hard things. And it's kind of reiterating what we've already said, but it really is. I think that a lot of people have the mindset of, if I just wait long enough and if I just hope that it's going to happen, then one day I'll just be able to ride the ride like everyone else did, because it seems like that's where they are, and that's how they started, was by just being naturally good at everything, So, I mean, I kind of, in my blog post, I just compared it kind of to, instead of riding a ride at an amusement park, like taking a hike up to a waterfall. I mean, you got to take that first step. You got to take the second step and the third step. And it's not going to do any good to wait and watch everyone else go up the trail. And if you do, then you'll be able to experience the joy at the end, and you'll be able to have all those memories of the struggles and the good times you had, the relationships that you built. So, I mean, that really is where we want to hit home, is that anyone can start, but you have to start. And you're not going to be perfect at it. No one's born with the knowledge of how to do what they want to do when they grow up. It's something that you've got to learn. And so I think that that's so crucial.
Yeah, man, everybody's waiting for like Mr. Miyagi to like tell them that they've trained enough they're ready to be in the California Karate Open or something. Like, I think what you're touching on there, first of all, congratulations on writing your blog post.
Thank
that's
you.
rad, man.
Thank you.
Like everybody has a first blog post. And I think that's super important.
Yeah.
I think too, what you're really waiting for is permission, right?
Yeah. Right.
We're waiting for our guru, whoever we've defined that to be, to give us permission to do the things we already know we need to do. One of the biggest like habits that I've worked on, I fail horribly at this sometimes, and sometimes I do really good, is this idea of like just in case information versus just in time information, of like consuming content, be it podcasts, videos, reading, whatever, just in case. I'm gonna do webinars someday. I need to learn all this stuff about webinars. No, you don't.
Yeah.
No, you don't. Like when you do webinars, you could just learn it then.
Right.
It's okay. Or like, oh well, for people that are listening and they're like, I want to start a podcast someday, and they spend the next 2 weeks learning about podcasts and then never start one.
Right.
Yep.
Well, it's not. You want the information you consume to be just in time. There's so many good ways. Evernote, all these like productivity apps. Like I use an app called Todoist. It's just like a to-do list. And I save like media in there that I want to consume later. I file it under what it's under. And if I ever decide to do whatever the thing is, like I'll have all of these great resources and it's no problem. But I don't get caught up like consuming information and then waiting for somebody to tell me it's my turn. Seth Godin made these beautiful books. I don't even remember what the title is. It's like Your Turn or something like that. And it's all just about taking your turn, like how the world really needs you to take your turn, raise your hand, take your turn, do your thing. Like nobody's going to call on you. Like you just need to go for it.
So what's your process, Brendan, of sorting through information when you come up against something that you're like, this sounds really interesting, kind of that just in case information? How do you delineate between just in case and just in time information and stop yourself from going down that rabbit hole of, yeah, this would be really entertaining and fun to do someday? What's your process?
Failing again and again and again. It's kind of like, have either of you guys ever tried to like meditate before?
Yeah.
Okay. So the best thing that I explain to people that are starting to meditate, is that the meditation is not the moment of clarity that you're training. You're training the moment where you catch yourself drifting off into thought as opposed to being clear. So the goal is not in a 10-minute meditation is not to have 10 minutes of just this like pure Zen clarity. The goal is that you catch yourself like, oh, those are thoughts. I'm watching them go by. I'm not thinking them. I'm not like, you're just observing your thoughts and like, okay, they're gone now. And now I'm just sitting. Like that's the work. The work is catching yourself. The work is not like successfully doing it. So I kind of feel the same way with this stuff. Like the work is, okay, I've just watched I went on, for some reason I was on YouTube and there's never anything I need to do on YouTube. I don't know why I go there.
There's so much valuable information. Just kidding.
But it becomes like, it's hard because it's like the place that I get some good information is also the place that I'll get like, entertainment or advice about fitness and things that are like, it's a total derailment. Mm-hmm. So, I use the like watch later feature a lot on there. I've got like 59,000 videos on YouTube to watch later. But it's good because it takes care of that, like, need that I have in my like lizard brain to like feel like I've consumed it. Like, all right, I'm saving it for later. It's not lost. I'm not going to like miss it when I need it. Cool. I can go back to what I'm doing. I also use a lot of, just to like stay focused. I use like a Pomodoro timer to batch my work and rest. So that keeps me really focused. But I guess to answer your question, like how do I organize things? I use that app Todoist. I have just a file under there called like media, and then I have subfolders under for like topics, and I'll have things that are related to SEO, just because most of my work that I do is online right now is very SEO focused. So if there's something new that I think's interesting, or somebody that I follow that put out something new that I want to read, I'll save it under there. And then whenever I have those 5-minute gaps in my timer, or when I have like a time that I've blocked out in my schedule, maybe I block out just a full hour every week, or even like 20 minutes a day, I don't know, something. I'll block out time ahead in a Google Calendar. I'm a Google Calendar freak. Awesome. It runs my life. Whenever I have time for that, then I'll dive into that folder. But it's screwing up. Oh, I'm catching myself reading something up. I'm on Twitter and Brennan Dunn posts something really cool about email marketing, save it for later, like whatever.
Yeah.
Got a new cool newsletter in my inbox, save it for later. There's a lot of like that stuff. Yeah. I mean, I've done pretty good job of cleaning out my inbox, of really reducing my input in order to increase my output. But like I have this joke about like how we need to Martin Brodeur our input. Like Martin Brodeur is like one of the best hockey goalies of all time. The dude had like a 98% save percentage. It was ridiculous. But like, you when you're taking things in, that's time away from making.
Right. It's time away from production.
Absolutely. So by really stopping as much input as possible, I'm able to get a lot more done.
That is so cool. To kind of just back up a little bit to what you said, I think that really is the key to being successful, is in those moments where you are drifting or from where you're losing focus, to bring it back, to realize what you're doing. Because anyone, when they're motivated and on fire, can say that they're driven and they're focused and everything like that. But when you have those moments where you're not, is where it's time to realize that it's time to bring it back.
Right. And we've talked about cognitive dissonance before, where realizing what you're doing or even what you're thinking isn't what you want and isn't where you want to end up. And I think that principle that you just talked about applies so universally, be it meditation, just for clearing your mind, be it in business, in using your time wisely, be it in spiritual pursuits. Like as you catch yourself drifting in your thoughts away from what you want, that ability to realize that is so valuable. I'm gonna work on mindfulness with that. I'll be honest, Brendan, a big part of why we're doing this podcast is to learn from people like yourself, because there's so much value in seeing how other people who have done things that you'd like to do, how they think and how they operate. So I just want to thank you for sharing that. That was awesome input.
Definitely. I think if I could just add one thing, I've always been like a very introspective person. I don't sit and like dwell on stuff, but like I feel, and it sounds so woo-woo, I don't know how to explain it. I think we're just wired for certain things. Like some people are really perceptive on how others are feeling. I'm not good at that. Yeah. Like some people are really perceptive about a ton of different things. I'm really perceptive about why I do the things that I do and why other people do the things they do. Like, I wonder why that happened. I wonder what's going on in their life. Like, and it just clicks in my brain really fast. Like, oh, they're dealing with this, and this. This is probably stressful. That's why they did that. And it helps me to understand other people. But I also do that for myself, of like, what's going on right now? Why am I doing this? Why did I make those decisions in the past? Like, oh, that's because I was raised this way and my mom chose this. And like all of these things, like it just pops into my head really quickly. And it allows me to make like very quick adjustments. It also has caused me to become a very like all or nothing person.
Yeah.
I don't like, oh, I'll just have a beer. Like I used to be like I'll have 20 beer. Like if one beer is good, all of them is better. And like, so then I became no beer guy ever, none for like 2 years. And then I was tired of that controlling my life. So like, you know, it's not like, oh, I'm not the I like podcast guy. I'm the I want to start a podcast guy. Or like, oh, I like training Brazilian jiu-jitsu. No, I have to go start my own brand. Like I'm a very like, I'm either going to do this and go all the way with it, or I'm not going to do it at all. And that allows me to make everything super binary. And that makes my decision making very easy. There's no like dabbling, like I'm either doing this or I'm not doing it. And that, I think, because I then have to make less decisions, things are a lot easier.
That is so cool. One of the things that me and Alex have kind of wanted to dive into as well, and that it seems like you have kind of mastered this skill as well, is the difference between the producers and the consumers in the world. And me and Alex, I mean, it seems like up to a certain point, we're just consuming. We want to learn, and we want to go and follow other people and what they're doing. We want to be like other people. But then kind of what you mentioned is it's time to go out and produce. It's time to go out and start creating what it is we want our lives to be. And I think that that is really where the switch comes from, living the life that you want versus living the life that you subconsciously are just in. I don't know how to say that, but I mean, like, it does come down to a point where you have to say, okay, instead of just consuming, instead of just learning about this, I'm going to go do, and I'm going to go create something that I can use in my life to create what I want in life. I don't know if that makes sense, but I mean, that really is where it all comes together, is being the producers and being the creators, and instead of just always looking to consume and consume.
So I'm like, so I'm a teacher and I'm also a Christian. So that means I love analogies and parables. Like, love them. Like, for some reason, like everything, I'll like make analogies to my wife and she'll be like, I said I got it the first time. You didn't really have to tell me that whole other thing to explain it. And I was like, I know, but I thought of it and I just had to get it out. Yeah. So like the analogy about like living life that I love is just this idea of like people going down a river. Like, some people are just in the inner tube with a beer, just enjoying the ride, floating down the river or whatever. And then there's other people that are like paddling and like going places, and they can even go upriver if they want. Like, there's a very big difference between like choosing it. The problem is that like some of those people, for whether they realize it or not, like if the river forks, they don't get to decide which way they go. And when life throws a curveball at them, they don't get to decide. And I do. You know, when crazy things have happened in my life, you know, my school, well, one of my schools had like a big turnover. All the administration got fired. We all got dropped from our contracts illegally. And I pretty much, with a pregnant wife, then 3-year-old son, and no, he was 2 then, and myself, like had to figure out insurance for 2 months. And it was awesome because like between like teaching and all of and the businesses that I run on the side, like I make plenty of money. So being able to drop like a like whatever doesn't matter. Like it was $5,000, but like I had $5,000 to cover my family's insurance, and I didn't get pushed whichever way the river went. I got to paddle, and I got to choose that like we were going to be fine. And that meant a lot to me, you know, and I think that's a big part of it.
And it's interesting because I think that most of us want that life. Most of us want that opportunity to be able to decide in those situations. But for whatever reason, I don't know if it's because of the amount of available information out there, or I don't know exactly what it is, but it seems like that for whatever reason, we limit ourselves either mentally or we let our circumstances determine what we're going to be able to accomplish. And I think that that's just so interesting because as many people as you see that don't get to control their decisions, I think that most people want to. And so I think it all begins with the first step forward. I think that you just have to start. For those people that are wondering how they can get to that point where they get to decide the next path in their life, the next fork in the river there, I think you just have to get started. You got to stop consuming all the information. You got to stop wondering and worrying and fearing all those things, and just put your first foot forward, and things will come into play. It's not going to be easy, but you got to make it work. You just got to start moving.
So Brendan, I've got a question for you now. As a self-proclaimed normal guy, how do you approach networking? Because for a normal guy, you, sir, have done very well at connecting with people, bringing them into your world and getting yourself into theirs. As a normal guy, what have you done to grow your network?
So let's talk about normal guy first. First, I think I'm real weird. I think we all are. I just think that I embrace it. I also, like, by saying that I'm normal, I'm not special, right? Like, we can all cultivate these things. We can all step into this stuff. I was the same awkward teenager that everybody else listening to this was. Like, I was not cool. Played a lot of EverQuest in high school.
Nice.
Still
I was a WoW
wish,
guy, but that's okay.
That's right. I still, but like, I still wish I had time for, like, I discovered, like, League of Legends, like 6 months ago, and that almost wrecked everything for a while. Like,
for real, yeah.
It's a fantastic game. Like, I don't play video games anymore, but I'm the same, like, underachieving, like, this kid, like, all the teachers are like, he should probably have better grades, but he doesn't seem like he really cares. Like, that kind of kid. And, like, I'm the same. I had the same, like, superhero origin story that all of you have, that everybody has. I just chose one day, like, I just decided, like, this is not what I'm going to do, and this is not who I'm going to be. And what's crazy, this is so insane, if you tell yourself something enough, like, you start to, and this makes me sound like a pathological liar, but, like, you start to see, like, that it's true. And then you kind of step into that. I'm not telling people to, like, I that's been sold to me before, of, like, this step into greatness and you'll become it. Like, it's kind of woo woo and crazy, but, like, there's a bit of truth to that. Like, I just decided to, like, start saying, like, this is who I am and this is what I, like, want. And, like, it starts to, like, become a part of who you are. Or else you just kind of realize you're full of crap and you stop saying it. And I don't think I'm full of crap. So, like, I keep saying it.
Yeah.
And now I've lost track of the original question. Awesome. Networking. Thanks, man. So not like this. This is not how I network. But, like, I think as a regular person, I like to meet people. I'm very, very good. Again, like we talked about being introspective. When I was little, I moved around every 2 years through grade school. And that caused me to make friends really quickly. What I'm really bad at, and I'll be totally honest with you guys, I'm really bad at long-term friendships. I don't have any friends from high school. I don't have any friends that I stay in touch with really from college. I have a buddy I text, like, once a year. But, like, I don't have any of those friends. Like, I never developed that long-term relationship muscle. I don't remember to call people on their birthday. Like, I'm bad at that. So, like, I'm very, very good at, like, I don't really go to networking events, but, like, I'm very good at outreach. I'm very, very good at being persistent. I love the follow-up email. I'm a master of the follow-up email. And, like, I just really look to play the long game of, like, all right, I'm going to provide as much value as I can, do as much as I can for other people, and then just kind of go from there. Like, there's so much. My wife and I had so many conversations early on of, like, okay, but how does that make you money? And I was like, it doesn't. But, like, I feel like this is the right move.
Yeah.
Like, there was a lot of that kind of stuff just building into people. And I think, like, when I network with people, and I honestly, like, when I say networking, what I want you to really hear is, like, become friends.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
I just want to, this is the reason I was an assistant principal for 2 years and I hated it. It was the worst, guys. It was so bad.
You were always the bad guy.
I was always the bad guy. The kids hated me because I had to do, like, discipline. I had to hold them accountable, but I didn't get to have the relationship that a classroom teacher does, where they can also have the good side too. So the kids hated me, the parents hated me, the teachers hated me, and my boss didn't care about me. And it was so bad. It was so isolating and so terrible. I like to be liked. Right. And I know that. So with that said, like, I want people to like me. So I tend to just try to help people. You know, I have friends that, like, whenever I write a guest blog post, I write tons of them because it's part of, like, my link building strategy for my website.
Yeah.
I'm always mentioning them, even if it doesn't really have anything to do with them. I'll figure out a way to give them a link. Like, I'm just, like, things like that just continue to, like, hey man, I'm thinking about you. I'm trying to, like, not just tell you I appreciate you. I want to, like, show you, you know?
Right.
So
that might even be more powerful than remembering their birthday.
Man.
I would agree.
Definitely. What would we do without Facebook to tell us when our friends' birthdays were?
I know, right?
Every day.
Yeah. So, like, I remember one of the first big conferences I went to, I decided to be myself the first day. I'm like, all right, I'd take that back. I was like the junior varsity version of Brendan the first day. Like the second day, the bright orange shoes and camo pants came out, and like that's a little more me. But like the first day, and I saw a bunch of like dudes sitting on there was all these people with like, t-shirts tucked into their jeans, and I'm like, those are not my people. And people like with weird sport coats on, I'm like, you guys are not my people. And I saw these kids that looked like dorks just sitting on the floor at this like big business conference, and I'm like, oh, they're sitting on the floor in a circle talking about stuff, like those are my people. And I was just like, you guys mind if I sit over here? And I'm like clearly older than them. They're like, yeah, it's cool, man. They're like 20 and I'm 32. It's like, whatever. I'm like, I do way better with you guys. So I just hung out with them, and I always try to, I think I stole this phrasing from somebody. Gabby Reese, I think, said it, like, go first, right? Like, just be first. Say hi first. Give somebody a high five first. Like, just be first. Like, just go. And I give myself this like 2 count in my head, and then I just do it. And I've literally never made a bad decision that way, of just like, I want to do this. I think it's right. All right. 1, 2, go. All right. And I'll just go for it. And like that for networking, if anybody's like nervous about it or whatever else, just like try to be friends with people. Don't be weird. Like, just people like doing business with people they like and trust. Like, just be somebody's friend.
That's it. Don't be weird. Just be people's friends. That's the key. I love that.
And if you're weird, if you are weird, if you're really weird and like you don't make friends easily, like your people are out there. Like, find them. Find the other weird people. Like my buddy does cosplay. He dresses up as Spider-Man and goes to conventions. Like, he found is like, that dude like lets his freak flag just fly, and like he doesn't even care. And I love it because he held that in, I feel like, for like a long time, and now he's like, I don't care. Like,
Spidey's coming out.
Yeah, man. And like, he found his people. Like, I just think you just need to find, if you're like at a networking event and you're like, I feel really awkward here, like, they're just not your people. Like, it's fine.
I love that. Thank you, man. So we want to end up with a couple questions.
Crazy rant. Sorry.
No, I loved it.
I love that. I find so much of myself in what you're describing. And I'm the type of person who I'm developing the ability to just go up and say, heck, I'll just go say hi. Yeah. And it's been so cool to see how people are really willing to respond if you're just friendly and you're genuine and you just go say, hey, I want to get to know you. It happened in the library, actually. I was at the library last week, and there was a guy that I saw. Hopefully we'll have him on the podcast soon. And I wanted to go meet him. And I went up to him. I'm like, hey, are you this guy? And he was like, yeah. And he was with his daughter picking out books. And we ended up having like a 10-minute conversation. And it was totally cool, but totally awkward the first like 5 seconds. And after that, it was just fine, right? Like, be okay with being a little bit weird and making friends with people that you don't know yet. It's cool.
And I think that really the key too is if you're creating that relationship to help build the other person up, then you can't go wrong. Like you said, I love that. You can't go wrong. Like, you just focus on how you can add value to their life, how you can lift them up, and who cares what they think of you. You think they're the coolest person in the world, and they're going to reciprocate that because that's how you made them feel. So that's so crucial.
Yeah, I think that's a really big point, is just like making somebody feel special.
Yeah.
Like, really, really trying to make them feel, even if it's just you, like, I tend to turn, this will happen to you. Get ready, guys. You'll turn every conversation into like a podcast interview.
It's true.
Where you're just so interested in them. Oh, yeah. It's bad, man. I'll be like, so like, we'll be sitting there at dinner with friends. I'll be like, so tell me about like the conversation in your head. Like, when you decided to make that decision, like, tell me about what you thought. Like, what did you think she would say? And so I'm like, true. Liz is like, you want to get the microphone out or something? Like, you want to just chill out? We're trying to like have like light conversation.
Man, we need to have like a podcaster's wives club or a podcaster spouse club so that they can like,
seriously,
get over the
and this is
of us doing this.
We talk about like hacking our lives and like productivity hacks. Like, I think the number one hack, and this is in like so many, like when you look in like really important like famous books, How to Win Friends and Influence People, like all of these books talk about the number one hack is like who you marry. your spouse is the most important decision you make in your life. If you want any sort of success, if you want any sort of life for yourself, like who you marry is so, so important. And
Amen.
by the grace of God, I got the winner for me. Like everybody's got like we're all weird puzzle pieces. Here, more analogies, right? We're all weird puzzle pieces. And I got the piece that fit my weird piece. And like, it's so awesome. Like our life is not all like rainbows and butterflies. It's very difficult sometimes, but like we are just the right fit for each other. And it's not easy, but it's work. The reward of the work is so good. So like, I think that's probably like my best like hack that I could give, you know?
Marry right.
Yep.
That's so good. And I think that if you can just really, to go along with the marriage thing, if you can just focus on, once again, making the other person happy, making the other person feel important. And I think that that's really hard to do sometimes, because by making someone else feel important, sometimes we feel like we're taking away from our own ego or our own self-confidence because we want someone to build us up. But really, that doesn't come until we build other people up, because that's what everyone's searching for. So in marriage, in business, in networking, in anything, just focus on how you can build your relationships, how you can build your marriage, and that's key. That's awesome. I love that story.
All right, man. We want to end up with this. Let's talk about your goals for a little bit. We had you fill out our goal sheet, and I want to talk about what your goal is for the next 30 days. So give us a brief overview, what you're focused on in the next 30 days that you want to achieve, and why you want it.
So, my goal for the next 30 days is to have 5 new guest posts on authority blogs in my niche. Like I said, SEO is search engine optimization is super important to my business. I think that it's like the best, like most honest way to do business online, especially with like social media reach being not what it was. Yeah. A couple of years. Here's the thing also, like this is like such like a weird mindset shift thing, but like I always I have a sign in my house that says, "These are the good old days." That reminds me that like someday, no matter what I'm going through, I will look back at today as like, man, you remember when times were so much easier and better and happier? These are the good old days. So like we look back at, like, I'm a marketer. So like I look back at the old days of better reach on Facebook, and I'm like, man, remember the good old days? And I'm like, man, but I think about it, I'm like, video used to suck on Facebook, and now it's so much better. Like, Instagram totally didn't even exist. Like, these things we think about, we tend to forget like what the past was like. So like the mindset shift of like, things are better. Things are better and they're getting better really changed a lot. Sorry, tangent. So my goal, people listening are going to be like, I don't know what to make of this. I love it. So my goal is to have 5 new guest posts on authority blogs. Cool. And I want it because I run this digital marketing agency that's focused on SEO, and, writing for other people is kind of like we talked about networking, to tie it in, like, is a great way to provide value. Like, here, friend, like, here's this amazing piece of content that I'm going to promote the heck of once I give you. I'm going to send as many people to read my article on your blog, just in the hope that maybe over time you don't shut your blog down, and like you build an audience too, and they find that post and that's helpful for them, and that, we can siphon off each other's like equity a little bit. And so I think that really like breaks down into 3 kind of steps, right? Like the pitch, like just first pitching people, then writing, and then submitting it, and then just kind of repeating those steps. Like sometimes I'm doing a bunch of pitches all at once. I batch my tasks. It's an awesome habit to develop, just batching like tasks as much as you can. So I'll do all my pitches, and then I'll write a bunch, and then I'll submit all of them. So that's kind of how it breaks down into 3 smaller steps. And then I work on it similar to the time we're talking right now, usually in the evenings. Like I said, I'm a Google Calendar freak, so I like schedule my nights to sleep because I have to, or else I don't sleep and I just become a crazy zombie, like a crazy work zombie, and it ends up real bad. But so I'll tend to work like at nights, maybe sometimes on the weekends, sometimes during the day, like if I can get a little bit of time. But I'm pretty regimented with my time, so I'll work on it in, the late evenings. I think the biggest barriers that'll come up will probably, like we talked about earlier, like consuming this like just in case information, or like, when I got sick, I wanted to work out so bad and I just couldn't push myself the way that I wanted to. And like I ended up somehow like getting into CrossFit videos on YouTube and like that kind of stuff. Like, that was a big barrier that came up. So that was number one, that just in case information or like entertainment information. I think number two is like a lack of focus and clarity. This is why I'm really glad to have a really solid mastermind group to fall back on. But like, they're really there to give me clarity on things when I'm doubting myself or feeling like this isn't the right move, or, more often than not, it's me trying to, like, I'm the race car driver putting the pedal all the way down and they're like, hey man, you're going to like wreck your tires. If people know racing. I don't, but I assume that's how it works, 'cause I think I heard it somewhere. Right. But like probably watching Cars, like with my son.
There you go.
But
That's
like,
what came to my mind.
Like pushing like and then my pit crew is like, oh man, like slow down. This is a long race. Like relax. There's a lot of that. So I think that lack of focus and clarity. And then like the last barrier is just like a perceived lack of time. I can get very frantic sometimes about like, oh, this is so overwhelming. And my wife's like, well, when's that due? And I'm like, well, whenever I send it to them.
Right.
I just want to send it to them right now. So how do I overcome that stuff? Focusing on my family goals, the sacrifice of others, focusing on like, I'm not going to watch this stupid YouTube video because my wife is sacrificed. Like I should send this to you guys so you can show it like on your website or like in the show notes or something. Yeah. But like I literally have a sticky note on my left side of my computer that says no news feed. This is before I found that there's a Chrome plugin that just blocks your news feed on Facebook. People will be like, I'm sure you saw, this is so awkward. They do it all the time now. Like, they're like, oh, I'm sure you saw my post on Facebook. I'm like, right. I don't see anybody's post on Facebook, bro.
It's not just you. Don't worry.
I got the whole feed blocked. I got a fun little quote from Tyler Durden there, and that's all that I see. So
send us a link to that plugin. That sounds useful. We'll put it in the show notes.
Yeah, that's like the best. It's one of the greatest things. I got it from Noah Kagan. It's awesome. It's called like Newsfeed Eradicator. It's awesome.
I've heard of that.
And if you want to send us that, post it. Send us a picture of that. We'll put it in the show notes.
All right. But then I also have one that this has been on my, this has been about 4 years on my thing that says wasting time online is wasting time with your son and wife. And it's such like a big reminder to me that every minute that I spend doing something stupid on the internet is a minute that I could have invested in my wife and my son and my relationship with them. And that means a lot to me. So those are very like, that's a big way that I overcome that, like screwing around and doing silly stuff. Watching a webinar I don't need to buy a product that I shouldn't buy.
Right.
I think the lack of focus and clarity, I can overcome a lot of that just by eating really smart. I tend to like fall into that trap of like, if one is good, then all is best of like whatever I'm eating. And then like, I just feel like that contributes a lot. Like when I'm eating really smart, and for me, that tends to look mostly like steak and not a lot of carbs. I have a lot more clarity and I have a lot more focus. And then I think the last one, like having this barrier of perceived lack of time, is just scheduling my sleep. By scheduling stuff, then I can always look at my calendar and be like, relax, man, you have time. It's okay. And like, then I can go to sleep and like feel good about that. And then finally, like, who am I going to be accountable to? My mastermind group, my wife, and now I guess everybody who's listening to this. So thank you. As well.
So we're actually going to commit you to being accountable to this in our group. I know you don't have a Facebook feed, but we want you in our feed. In 30 days, we're going to ask you to check in and let us know if you were able to hit that goal of the 5 guest posts. Can you do that?
Yeah, man. I'll put it in my Google Calendar.
Yeah, calendar that. 30 days from right now.
It's so silly. It's what I'll literally do. That's great.
All right.
That's so cool.
If you don't do it, I'm gonna be calling you out. So just so you know.
All right, no problem. I may or may not see it. Here's the thing. Like, what's cool with blocking my feed is that there are some groups that I really am pretty involved in on Facebook.
Yeah.
I just go to those groups and just check the conversation there. It's way better than seeing like everybody promoting their crap that I don't want to read and like whatever else. So I look at groups. I have groups, my left sidebar still shows all my groups. I still go to all the different groups that I want to be involved in. So yeah, man, I'm stoked to join the community.
Good stuff. Well, we're stoked to have you. I feel like this has been so valuable for myself. I'm sure it will be for our audience, but I feel like personally I've gotten a lot out of this. I'm excited to go back through and listen to your wisdom. So thank you so much for coming on.
Yeah, honestly, we've got some serious gold nuggets from this. I feel really inspired and really thanks for your time. Really appreciate you spending some time to give us that advice and wisdom there.
So Brendan Hufford, how can people find you online, man?
Yeah, man. So the best way to find me personally is probably if you Google me, like Brendan Hufford, it'll probably come up with my website. And I think that's like the best way to find people, right? Like just Google them.
Right.
Like
Just
you'll
Google
find
them.
you'll find my website. You'll find my Twitter. You might find my Instagram. So my Instagram, like my Twitter's Brendan Hufford. I was a little late on the Instagram because I didn't have an iPhone at the time. So I have the Brendan Hufford. There's some
prestigious.
Apparently there's another. Yeah, but no, it's only because there's another Brendan Hufford that jerk stole it.
Jeez.
Anyways, I'm still very upset. But yeah, Brendan Hufford on Twitter, at the Brendan Hufford on Instagram. And then like my website, brendanhufford.com, you're there when you see the X-Wing.
That's right.
Yeah.
And
that's all
then, if somebody's listening to this and they're a photographer and they want help with, marketing and things like that, and they want to just get a pipeline of clients going that they don't kind of on autopilot, they can check that out at Photo MBA, like the business degree MBA, photomba.net is the website.
Good stuff. You have a podcast too, right? Tell us about that.
I do. So many things, right? This is dude, I could hit you with like 17 ridiculous like things that people should look at. It's a problem. You end up this is the problem when you like really try to fix this stuff. You end up just making a ton of things without focus. So my podcast is really cool. You can check it out at it's the Entrepreneurs and Coffee podcast. And if you're like me, you have no idea how to spell entrepreneurs. So it was a bad idea to make it the name.
Still don't.
Literally, if people go to and coffee, just spell that out, the letter E and coffee.com, it'll take them right there in iTunes.
Awesome. And we'll include a link to all of those mentioned ways to contact you and get in touch with you on our show notes as well. We really do want to thank you, Brendan, for your time. It's been an honor and a pleasure to be able to learn from you. And I know that that'll be the case for everyone else listening as well. So,
yeah, we want to let our listeners get a hold of the goals sheet that Brendan filled out at habithacked.com/goals and jump in the Facebook group with us. Get to know Brendan in there as he checks in with his goals, see what he's up to, and join us in the group. There's a reason that it's so big. Yeah, go ahead, man.
Can I give you guys a bonus?
Please.
So,
that would be great.
I know not all of your listeners are like entrepreneur dads, but when I was getting started, I was really focused on that audience, and being one myself, like I wanted to help other dads kind of figure out how to be more productive and develop these super important habits. So we'll put a link in the show notes. I made a course on it called Productivity Fundamentals. And it's a big, long video course, and there's a whole bunch of stuff, put a ton of time and work into it. And what's really cool now is now that I've moved on from that project, I can just give it to people. It's so nice.
That's awesome.
That would be so cool.
I can't wait for that.
So I'll give you guys a link, but we won't share it now. You got to go to the show notes to find it.
Deal.
Love it. We'll put that in there if you want to share that with us. I'm definitely going to take advantage of it because I'm a dad and an entrepreneur and trying to make things work as well. So I'm excited for that.
Yeah, and get those show notes. Go to habithacked.com/episode 007. That's where our show notes live.
That's right. Well, thanks again, Brendan. Appreciate your time, and we'll catch you on the next time we meet there.
Cool. Thanks, guys. See you in the group.
Hey,
Okay.
We'll see you there. And thank you guys for listening to the Habit Hacked podcast. We're glad you're here today. Hope you join us in the group, and we'll catch you next time. Thanks so much.
See you later.
Adios.
Thanks for listening to the Habit Hacked Podcast. Now stop sitting there and go leverage the last half hour of your life by taking action. Show up in the community online and tell us what stood out from the episode and what you'll do as a result. Now, go get it.